Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Monday, June 26. Well, let's begin with some good news for a change from the United States Supreme Court. It's a big day for equality, a big day for same-sex couples in Arkansas. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that it was unconstitutional for Arkansas, and a ruling by the Arkansas Supreme Court, to give the presumption of parenthood to opposite-sex couples on birth certificates, but not same-sex couples. Obviously, not every child born to an opposite-sex couple is the product of a biological union between the two parents, and that was the justification, a very poor one, used by the Arkansas Supreme Court to continue to discriminate. The Supreme Court decided it didn't even need to hear oral arguments on this. It ruled summarily, which is unusual. It's unfortunate that the decision wasn't unanimous. The new Justice Neil Gorsuch joined Joseph Alito and Clarence Thomas in dissenting, thinking there should be more consideration of this issue, if not necessarily outright opposed to what the decision was. Good news there. The Supreme Court is going to take up a case from Washington about a cake baker who refuses to bake cakes for gay couples when they get married. This could be important. It brings together the somewhat conflicting points of view of expression and public accommodations. Also, for the gun carriers and pistol packers out there, the Supreme Court today refused to take a case from California where gun packers were saying that a state law that prohibits open carry infringes on Second Amendment rights to carry guns anywhere you want to carry one to defend yourself. The Second Amendment is still not totally absolute, even by conservative Supreme Court standards. Supreme Court also, on a very busy day, said that the president's travel ban from some Muslim companies can take effect to a certain degree for the time being while it decides to hear arguments on the larger case, a semi-victory for the president. The health care issue continues to bubble. The Senate has issued a revision to its original draft of a health care bill. This one adds some new penalties for people with a penalty for those who don't maintain continuous coverage. You have to wait 6 months if you get off for it for a while. That's not a good thing for sick people, of course. Senators and governors in states that have had Medicaid expansion, particularly in Louisiana, have said this bill could do terrible things to states that expanded Medicaid coverage to more people, as Arkansas did. So far, however, despite those kind of talks in other states, silence from the senators from Arkansas and from the governor of Arkansas. There are problems here for Arkansas. Why our Republicans won't talk about it, I don't know. Thursday night last week, we learned, Friday night, or the Arkansas Blog learned, there was a secret Little Rock School Board meeting. The Little Rock School Board now consists of one person, the state education commissioner, and he okayed a $92 million so-called second lien bond issue to pay for new construction and repairs in the Little Rock School District. This may be the only way to do it, since voters turned down a bond refinance through a millage extension some weeks ago. But it's not much of a way to run a school district. We don't really know how the budget will accommodate the payment for these bonds. We don't know precisely how the money is going to be spent, but that's how they do things in secret now with the state running the Little Rock School District. It's too bad that it has to be done secretly and found out only when information leaks out. The Little Rock City Board over the weekend backed away from a controversial issue withdrawn from consideration. Was an ordinance that would require energy efficiency tests on new home construction. Make sure your doors, windows, and ductworks are tight. A lot of people have passed standards like these. They cost a little bit more than the cost of a new home, but the money's repaid very quickly over time and reduced energy bills, and of course it makes for a greener America. Mayor Stodler wouldn't go along with this. The real estate industry doesn't like adding cost to home sales. They oppose anything that's progressive, and the mayor doesn't want to buck the real estate industry because they support him when he runs for election. The irony is the mayor was down in Miami last week with a bunch of mayors talking about how they were going to step in where President Trump had failed on the Paris Climate Accords and do things to promote energy efficiency. Well, I guess they will unless the real estate lobby objects, as happened here. Nurses at the Veterans Affairs Hospital in Little Rock were picketing outside the hospital today. They say they're shorthanded. They say they're so shorthanded, in fact, that this can't affect patient care. The hospital says it has a plan in place to alleviate the situation. The problem is the labor market's tight, hard to hire as many nurses as you need. That's good and bad. Good for perhaps nursing pay and time, bad for the patients in the meanwhile. Interesting development over the weekend. The state police arrested a man named Steve Dishman in a home in Springdale. He'd gone missing, escaped from prison in 1985 on a burglary and theft conviction in Washington County, remained free for 32 years. Somebody tipped police off about his true identity. He's been living somewhat out in the open in Arkansas for a long period of time. There's a lawsuit pending in federal court in Little Rock over a man, incidentally, who was arrested on a mistaken identity in California, and Arkansas prison officials tried desperately to extradite him to Arkansas, even though they had no solid proof that he really was the man they sought. Could be some penalties there for Arkansas before that's done with. The health care bill, I should say, also has great peril for Arkansas children. Benjamin Hardy reported for the Arkansas Nonprofit News Network over the weekend that some 400,000 children face a reduction or perhaps total loss of health care coverage if the Medicaid bill is passed as the Senate now considers it. Some more good news on the equality front over the weekend. Big crowds turned out in both Fayetteville and Harrison for pride marches, equal rights for gay people, and just sort of a general celebration of diversity in general, and a little bit of objection, I think, to some current policy making in the country today. Largely positive. The handful of usual Confederate bigot cranks turned out at Harrison to wave their Confederate flags, and nobody stopped them from doing that either. We had another drive-by shooting over the weekend in Little Rock. That makes 6 or 7 over about a 3-day period. This was the first one, however, where somebody was injured, one of those people very seriously. Apparently a young man under age of 17, armed with an AR-15 rifle, was shooting up a neighborhood out in central Little Rock. These are not good times if you live in gangland Little Rock, that's for sure, although the mayor assures us that we're making nothing but progress in making Little Rock a safer city. With that note, I'll end it for today. Resist. I'm Max Brantley.